Hello everyone. We will continue to analyze the Classical Sicilian model games of the Classical Sicilian. And today again we're going to talk about the rouser attack and how to face the rouser. One of the game is mine, where I had the two brilliant moves. It's an interesting game. And the two other games are the grandmaster's games. So, well, it's a little bit I don't know, man, like next to the grandmaster games, well, my game is not that, impressive, but it's a still nice game, so we can take a look of it. Okay, well, let's go. Let's analyze the game first. When the Bologan Victor played against Arose Boris, the boss of them are the famous grandmasters. It was played in BL 1999, long time ago. Okay, so we have a Sicilian defense and the open Sicilian. That's how we get first. So this move is the open Sicilian move. We take, opponent takes, and 96. So this is the classical Sicilian, right? The central position of the classical Sicilian. Rouser attack is the bishop g5, where usually white is looking for the queen d2 and the queenside castle to play more aggressive and start their own attack. Right? a6 and queen b6. This is the variation we are playing. This is the variation what is included in the Chessable course of the practical classical Sicilian. Well, now knight's under attack, pawn is under attack, knight b3, bishop b7, and here black takes bishop f6 because, sorry, the white takes bishop f6. So the black bishop looks a little bit overloaded. It's protecting the knight. It also protects the pawn. And it looks like after taking, black probably takes g takes f, right? To not lose the pawn. But no, actually, we take with the bishop f6. And it's completely okay to let the white to have a d6 pawn. Because after bishop b5, if you guys remember, the last time we analyzed the variations where the queen moves on c5. Now let's analyze the variation when the queen moves on the d2, and how the black continues from here, where is the black's compensation, and why it's okay to give away the pawn like that. By the way, let me really quickly check on it. Who's this is, by the way, the commentaries of this game is not the engine's commentaries. It's from the mega database, from the chess base where I found the game. Some of the games are annotated, and annotator and commentator of this game is Cesarskilia. So it's nice to know also who was the Cesarski. Yeah. So Cesarski is annotating the game and making the commentaries regarding this game. Queen went back on d2. Let's say they're not trading and keeping the queen on the d2. So what's happening right now? Well, white got the pawn, yeah, but they lost the two tempos for that, and black is still undeveloped. Plus, in this position, probably white can still queenside castle, but it's also a little bit risky when this e5 pawn is controlling a lot there, especially after queenside castle. I can consider taking, and if the queen takes, f2 pawn is hanging, right? If the pawn takes, then we are damaging the kingside pawn structure of whites. So that's why white decided to play bishop d3 and a5. Well, a5 is the common move. The white knight on b3 is not even that good, and attacking that knight on the b3 is interesting. It makes sense. A4, well, a4 stops our pawn, but on the other hand, it usually creates the weakness on b4. So it's always questionable, like, should white play the a4 or not, right? Rook d8, so f4. So in this position, what white tries here is to force the black to do something with this bishop, but we can just take on c3. Why? Because now white is forced to take with b pawn. If the queen takes, it's queen e3. and the black wins the f4 pawn. That's why after b takes c, so this is the reason why a lot of times it's also okay to give the d6 pawn, because white most of the times ended up with the double pawns on the c file. Regarding what white plays, this can happen in most of the positions and most of the games, and it's not really feels like when you have a double pawns and isolated pawns on the queen side, it's not feels that much that you have an extra pawn on the queen side, right? Because it's double isolated. It's not just double, it's double plus isolated, which is even weaker than just a double pawn, right? Otherwise, double pawn is not always bad. Sometimes it's good to have them, sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's bad, right? Most of the times double pawns are bad, so we call them the bad pawns. But it also depends what kind of double pawns we have. This is isolated double pawn, which means that they're double plus isolated and have no other pawns nearby to protect them. And white will need to protect those pawns all the time with the pieces, which is uncomfortable, right? e5. That's an interesting move, because if the white takes, knight gets amazing square on e5. And the white decided to push f5. So idea of the f5 is to gain more space on the king side, right? Like usually more you push your pawns, more space you gain. And plus, nobody wants this knight to end up on e5, for example, right? But after f5, Boris Avruch had a nice move prepared, which is the bishop f5. Bishop takes on f5, and if he takes f, it's e4, and it opens everything. And let's not forget that white can't really castle any side, because if they castle the king side, queen is controlling diagonal. If they castle queen side, pawns are horrible. So by the way, this idea with f5 pawn, remember guys, this situation, bishop f5 or knight f5s are hanging because of if after recapturing you have e4 following move, right? White played queen f2, decided to trade the queens, and well, black is forced to take, and we ended up in this position. Actually, it's interesting why moved on the c8, right? It looks like it's a little bit passive and everything, but if the bishop moves on g6, it pressures only 4, but b7 pawn is backward, right? So he decided to have a better control over this, especially knight c5 can jump anytime with tempo in the future, right? So white pawns are a little bit mess, but on the other hand, the c pawn is kind of helping them to cover the weak squares, like black knight can't really jump or on b4 or d4 squares. Rook d7. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Well, this is normal, right? Like, the white has the semi-open file. Plus, this knight is doing nothing here. Well, knight c5 is like, okay, it's there, but how long you can keep it the knight there. So that's why I think the Bologan decided to get the knight on c4, so it can kind of control more squares from there. And plus, it opens the b file, and now rook b5. That's an outpost square for white, right? Like, I remember the words from my coach, like, when you see the outpost squares, just throw your pieces there. And it makes sense, right? Like, we should place our pieces on the outpost squares. Bishop e6, well, getting the position, and knight d8, right? This knight d8, when you first look at it, it looks like a passive, but it's a really nice defense on the b7. Plus, it opens the c file, and the black can attack it. So if you are making this kind of like backward moves with the pieces, it's defense from the position, right? If it's like a really passive and it makes your position bad, and you can't improve his position later, that's maybe not that good. But this knight was already doing nothing. On c6, it just looks better. But I can't jump on any of those squares, right? On d8, maybe it does the better job. It protects the weak pawn, so I don't have to babysit it with my c7 rook, right? And they trade the central pawn, and bishop d7. Yeah, well, a4 is the weak pawn. Black is aiming for that. and white decided to trade, and a lot of trades happen in this position. Well, usually when you get this kind of end games, like nobody has extra pawn, it's entirely equal. White has some isolated pawns, but black also has the weak pawn, and for black it's a little bit hard to attack those pawns. It's not that easy to target them. Rook c8 and king d4. Like, this king is so active. Like, it's endgame. Of course, it's gonna activate the king. But black is activating king 2. And bishop d5. Yeah, this c6 bishop is actually really strong. It's like attacking, defending, kind of doing everything together. It makes sense that white is offering the bishop trade. F6, that's a good move. It's on the light square. In the future, it blocks some e5 things. Why not? King d6. And yeah. So after knight moves, as you guys can see, black can take, but the white has rook a1. And then a5 pawn can be also under attack. Knight c6 in between check. And b5. This is a nice move, by the way, the b5. I think black is looking for the ways to keep the pass pawn, because let's be honest, if everything will be traded on this side of the board, then you know, it's draw, simply draw, right? Like, that's what's happening a lot of times when you get the 3 versus 2 on the king side only, right? 3 versus 2 pawns on the king side only. A lot of those positions are draw, like rooks and games are draw, opposite kill bishops are draw, even the same color bishops are draw a lot of times. The knight end game can be a draw, the queen's end game. So a lot of 3 versus 2 positions can be a draw on the same side. So that's why white will try to trade some pieces, because right now black has an extra pawn, right? And it's end game. So we just took on a4. At least for now, it's a extra pawn unless white gets something back, right? And they're trying to get it back, obviously. And king d4, right? Activating the king, and some trade's gonna happen here. And well, after a couple of moves, they agreed on a draw. Well, to be honest, this looks pretty drawish. Like, black has a plus pawn, white has c plus pawn. They have the most active kings. White has a little bit more. White's e4 pawn is a little bit weak, but still a draw position. Yeah, they just made a draw. I don't know why this is accuracy to in my brain it's not looks like inaccuracy. But yeah, they agreed on the draw. Well, what we can say, it's an equal position, it's a draw position, and yeah, like, the rooks endgames are so interesting. Like, do you guys like rooks endgame? Like, rooks endgame is my favorite topic. I really love endgames, and especially rooks endgames. They're so interesting, so interesting. Okay, guys, do you have any questions regarding this game? And then I'm gonna move on the next game, and the last game will be my game. I kept it in the end. Last game will be my game. Before that, let me know if you guys have any questions. I will wait a little bit before I start the new one. Patience with the stranger. Okay, let's go for the next game. The next game is the game. How do you pronounce this? I don't want to pronounce it the wrong way. The wreck. Sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong way. I'm Chedlishvili, Mikhail. As you can guys see, we have a Sicilian here too, and the Classical Sicilian. Rouser again, and queen b6 line again, knight b3, and the same thing. White takes, black takes, and they get the free pawn. Like the reason why I actually selected as a model games couple of games in those positions when the black is sacrificing the sixth pawn, I think it's huge topic for the Sicilian, because there's a lot of variations where the black actually is sacrificing, right, the pawn on d6. I myself sacrificed that pawn so many times, so it's a common thing, and it's okay to sacrifice it if you can create the nice counterplay, and if you have a pressure and good compensation for the pawn, why not? Bishop e5, and in this case queen went back on d2 again and cast. In this game, white plays the bishop d3, preparing for the kingside castle, rook d8, castle, and a5. Again, a5 is the common thing when the white knight is on b3. Not only in Sicilian, generally, when that knight is there, why not? Like, you can push, after a4, maybe you can push even a3, weaken this diagonal, right? If you force opponent to push b3, look at that. If we force them to push the b3, all the white pawns are on the light squares, which creates the dark square holes, right? When we are placing the pawns on the same color squares, it weakens the opposite color squares because we don't have a control on those squares anymore. And knight b4, yeah, that's the thing. You play for not letting opponent to play, but then you give away the really nice square for the knight here. Knight c1, I think white tries to have a good defense on d3. I'm proud they're also looking to move the queen away later. Bishop d7, bishop c6. Well, this is the really common idea. All of you remember that's can happen in Sicilian really often, in any Sicilian variation, not only classical Sicilian. So this, and not only in Sicilian, like bishop d7, bishop c6 idea can be played in so many different openings, right? It's a nice way to develop the bishop. g6, well, it creates the window, and plus, if something, we can take a bishop back and fianchetto it, right? Because, like, the thing is, don't forget, guys, why white moves the king f1, right? To make a prophylactic moves, it's so important. Like, why play? They want f4, and I can't keep the bishop on e5 anymore. So that's why, after g6, I can take the bishop back, right? If you push e5, yeah, you can close my bishop, but then my other bishop opens and snipe the kings, right? And snipes the king. So that's why king f1's idea was f4. So be careful after f4. It will be later hard to find a good square for the bishop, right? So g6, f4, bishop g7, and f5. Well, white is keep pushing, but on the other hand, white king is not that well protected either. This diagonal is open, and look at that, we are controlling the g1 square. We take, they take, and rook d7. Well, black is obviously preparing for doubling. Look at those bishops, how good they are. I really like bishops. I really do like bishops. Yeah, so the white could play f6, but okay, first of all, after f6, it's interesting if we have a bishop f6 and there's some bishop g2 tactics, right? Discovered attack. Even if we have no tactic and the bishop goes back, white really not has anything there attacking, and that f6 is a little bit closing the position. So that's why white decided to take on g6. Of course, we take this and keep the two bishops, plus white has another weakness on this three. Now this is really interesting. Check this out, queen h4, right? Because h file open, and it's not like only white is using the files to attack me, we can also use the h file to attack opponent. f5, and this is the really interesting, look at that, f5 move with the king h7. So after f5, the couple of things are happening here, okay? And also we will get ourselves to the, oh, wait, let me cover the moves. Let me cover the moves. I will, guys, let you to find the interesting continuation here. So after f5, look at this idea. So h file is open. One, I can get the rook and then king g8, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. I can get checked or something. That's why he decides to play bishop f6 and then king g7, which means that now I can use the h file. So that's the reverse attacking situation, right? White push all that f4, f5, opened and tried to attack, but now white is in a trouble because the h file is open. So that's why it's always risky when you're attacking on the king side and your king is also on that side, right? Something can happen with your own king. And here, guys, take your time. This is so beautiful. I really, really do like this game. I will give you guys 10-15 seconds to find a really good winning tactic for black. 10-15 seconds. You guys can pause the video and find it. Okay, look at that. Queen g3. Like, let's put the brilliant mark on this. It's cool, right? Ah, rook h8 is good move too, but queen g3. But this is so cool. After king takes, it looks like a wow. After check, they escape, but not check yet. Bishop d4, and white resigns in this position. Why they resigned? Because the black is controlling g1, and how is that the rook h8? Black literally sacrificed the queen and then made a normal move like bishop d4. Like nothing happens, and white is in the trouble. Huge trouble. White resigned here. There's no way to stop the rook h8. Well, there is some temporary defenses, but it's not like it's gonna help and it's gonna fix the problem, right? Yeah, cool game. Cool game. I really like this game. This queen g3 bishop d4 idea, it's really cool, right? By the way, it's the common idea when the g1 is, you know, what if the black played rook h8? The difference with Sarham, the bit between rook h8 and then queen g3 is more forcing. When I play the rook h8, maybe they can play knight f1 or something. Again, it's the position is winning for black, obviously, but this is not only fancier, it's also more forcing, right? More forcing. That's the difference. Otherwise, I think rook h8 is probably also winning. Maybe knight f1. I don't see any move than that. One and protect on h2. Yeah. So yeah, bishop d4 and white resigned. They got counterattacked on h file. Like one more time, white just pushed the pawn. f4, f5 is the common thing. That's what's almost always happening. Like, it's so dangerous, guys. When the g1 square is controlled by bishop or the queen, something can happen on the h file. Probably you guys also got it in the tactics. When you're solving the tactics, there is a lot of motives and ideas like that. So, a pretty interesting game. And look at what happened. Like, created counterattack on h file. Okay, I have a class in 10 minutes, and let's take a quick look of my own game. I'm gonna upload it. Just give me 1 second. This will be my own game. I played. 1 second. Okay. Back to, maybe I have some mistakes. But I have two brilliant moves too. A small spoiler. Oh, yeah, two brilliances. Yeah, I was right. Two brilliances. Let's go. Let's check on it. So I'm playing Georgian Women Championship, and I'm playing against Choladze Mariam, and I'm black, Kuchava Ana. So it's the rouser in our case too. And after queen b6, my opponent played knight b5, which is not a good line, but it's also nice to know why it's not a good line. What's happening with this after a6? The question is where the knight goes. Okay, you could win the one tempo on my queen, and I can move, but then what? Knight goes back. So I already made the a6 move, which is the really useful move for me. I played either way, and white wasted time on the knight b5, and yeah. So taking on this 6, after taking on the 6, by the way, so probably something like this. Well, I think I do have a knight e4 move in this position because the knight is pinned. And that's why she decided to not take it and move the knight back. After knight g4, well, again, always in Sicilian, when I see the bishop on e3, I always try to get it. Always try to get it. So that's why I play the knight g4 and get the bishop there, right? I love the bishop pair. I like to get rid of their dark square bishop, and surprisingly, my opponent took with the f. Like usually in this kind of positions, white queen takes, right? But maybe my opponent tried to attack on f-line, because when the king is not castled yet, there's some attacking ideas on f-file, so that's why I captured. But we both castle now, and the problem of this whole thing is that when you have a double pawns like this, e5 square is really weak. Like if I get my knight on e5, it stays there forever, right? So it will be really hard to get rid of it. So in this case, I moved the queen back because I really want to start something with the pawns, and the queen was a little bit on the way, so I'd move it back. Oh, by the way, when the knight is on c6, oh, there's so many arrows. When the knight is on c6, I can't push b5 right away because the knight takes, so that's another reason why I moved it back. I want to push b5 and I make sure that my knight is protected. She started the attack, but you know, I never pushed any of my pawns. I have all these 3 pawns on the starting position, which is the really nice defense on the king side, right? When one of those pawns are pushed, opponent has the better chances to attack and break through. But when I have all these ones, just make sure you don't get back rank mated, otherwise you're good. I placed the knight there, and bishop yeah, I don't know why computer dislikes this move. I was like, okay, let's connect my rooks and then play b5. I think, well, b5 right away is a good move too, you're attacking. But I think I made a human move. Get my bishop out and then attack, like make sure that all my pieces are there. But computer for some reason dislikes it. So queen b7 is interesting move after b4, e4 pawn is also hanging. And I pushed that. I don't want to give away my b pawn, I think. So that's why I played a5. Wow, the computer not dislikes it. Yeah, I think taking here was not that good. Yeah, it's hard to remember why. Because of this pawn, maybe? Yeah. Well, I played a5, keep attacking, and h6, obviously, right? So I played h6 right away and not f takes h6, right? In this situation, we can have 2 different options here, right? Like f takes h6, where this pawn is really annoying and white has some sacrificing ideas, but I played h6 right. So that's the difference. When you take, and then h6, this is also okay, but this g6 pawn is annoying and something can happen anytime. So that's why I preferred myself to play h6. So I make sure that there's no something h6 to break the apart, and they can't keep this pawn because white has to really much take here to open the line, and I'm protecting myself. I brought another rook, took the e4 pawn, and played the knight f3. That's a good move, because if the knight takes, my queen takes, and I have further trade, I have an extra pawn in nice position. Why should not trade, right? Take, and my opponent not wants to trade, obviously. Well, I don't know. I like this move, this diagonal. For some reason, not likes it. By the way, queen h6 is not hanging, guys, because of the queen h1, I think. And after, ooh, look at that. Brilliant move. And if the rook takes, obviously it's no longer pinning us, right? So that's why queen h6 is not hanging. It's a blunder because of this move. The rook is pinning and they can't move the rook away. So here, rook, so yeah, my opponent just played this. That's why queen e2, rook e1, and queen e2. Like, my queen is not getting trapped. And to be honest, the only reason why I gotten my queen there, I already saw this idea before. And after bishop f1, Check this out, check this out, check this out. Take your time, guys. Let me cover it. 10 seconds. You guys have a 10 seconds to find a brilliant move in this position. Oh, it's a bishop b2, the brilliant move. I actually saw this move, and that's why I got to my queen on d2, because I knew this was happening. So that's really interesting, right? So knight cannot take because I take with check, and if the king takes, what's happening in the game? I have rook f6 to kick this away first. And by the way, rook f2 was winning right away, but I played rook f3, which is probably not the best. Rook f2 is better. But the reason why I played rook f3 was because after queen h4, I had this idea to make the second brilliant move. And that's why I played the rook on f3. I will give you guys 10 seconds to find the second brilliant move. Okay, it's rook f1, getting rid of the bishop. And look at that, when the white takes, I'm not doing anything there. Rook c8, and white is losing. That's why I sacrificed the bishop on b2. This king is completely exposed and helpless. There's no way for white to defend. I have no rook. White has an extra rook, but they have no moves. It's lost. How you're guarding on c2? They stopped. That's a permanent, that's a temporary defense. And then after check and bishop b5, my opponent resigned. This is under attack. Bishop d3 is the threat, and white just resigned. Not bad, right? I like this game, maybe because of the brilliant moves. You know, yeah, not bad. So yeah, the whole idea of the bishop b2 was that breaking opponent's king's pawn structure, just taking, not taking this moment that knights can't really take because of the queen e2, and then rook f1 and rook c8, and white is hopeless in this position. This was my game in the browser. I have a lot of games in the Classical Sicilian. Maybe in the future I can also offer, well, again, like after analyzing Grandmaster's games, then this game is almost like, you know, but still it's mine, so I also want to share my experience. Okay, well, I will finish the everything here because I have a class in 2 minutes. So have an amazing weekend, all of you, and wish you guys all the best. And next time, let's analyze the other modern games of the Classical Society.